And I'm really pleased to welcome everybody to episode 2 of the Sales Reset Daily Show. So I'm Peter Button. I'm the founder and director of Sales Reset Academy, and this is part of our pilot series of Sales Reset daily shows. We started yesterday, we're running through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of this week, and next week we'll pause and see how effectively it's worked, and we'll take it from there. Now, I'm incredibly pleased to be joined today by Philip Caulfield. So Philip is joining us. Philip is the sales director at Learning Tree International, Europe, Middle East, Africa. So in a moment, I'm going to ask Philip to introduce himself, say a little bit about where we've worked together and what we've been doing, and then in terms of how the episode rolls out here, I'm going to just ask Philip a few questions and see where we get to. We'll run through till 25 past 4, and if you've got any questions, then by all means put your questions in the comments, and we'll do what we can to respond to that. So without further ado, Philip, perhaps you'd like to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you recall about how we met.
Gosh, Peter, it only seems like yesterday that we met. It was about 4 years ago, or maybe 5 years ago. Um, I was working as head of sales at the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyor in London, and we started working together with the sales team there on developing their skills. This was a team that hadn't had an awful lot of interaction with learning and had pretty much been left to their own devices. They were a very variant team of capabilities and skills, some very mature field salespeople, and some quite new to the environment of telesales, people who were dealing with mostly telephone calls, both inbound and outbound. And it was quite an experience, and we certainly learnt a lot over those probably 2 or 3 years. But we certainly culminated in a success, significant growth each year, and it was really very, very successful.
Philip, just take me through the numbers at that time. So when we first got involved, if you want to just run through where sales performance was at that time, and then over the period that we were working. Of course, this was to do with all sorts of things developing at RICS. But just take us through where the numbers went.
Yeah, that's a good point, Peter. When you joined, the turnover in that team was 8.5 million, and when I moved on from that role, sort of in early 2019, it was running towards 12.5 million. So it was a significant lift, and more importantly than that was the level and quality of engagement that we were having with the client base, and that was something that was lacking. The point about the RICS is that they're a membership body, and they have 80,000 members, professional members in the UK, and consequently, it's certainly a type of what you might say a closed account base. There are other suppliers that can be spoken to outside of the RICS, but generally, the ability to speak to companies and individuals is relatively easier than certain other commercial markets. Consequently, it does become a little bit more like order taking, and that was a key area that I sensed that you addressed, and that was.
So, Phil, my apologies. I think I've cut across you. This is episode 2 of learning how to live stream, and I'm still working out what buttons to press. So I recall vividly at the early stage of our involvement, and we were working alongside the commercial director at RICS, Ollie Woodhead, and Ollie's vision for the team was of a team who was able to lead fundamentally better and more valuable conversations. So you were running a team that it was an internal team with internal account management, a team that was working with the inbound calls, and then an external senior team. I wonder what you can tell us, Philip, about what you saw of the changes in the sort of conversation that were taking place.
For me, it was, and it was both. Even though the external team was probably more mature than the internal team, I think the factor that we picked up on very early was that they just weren't inquisitive enough. They weren't prepared to have engaging conversations, and that was important, because if they weren't going to have engaging conversations, how were they going to find anything out? How are they going to find the next new opportunity? There was too much reliant on answering the questions that the incoming call, or the surveyor, or the MD of the company, whoever, they were just asking questions, and our sales team were answering those questions without looking for further opportunities, without engaging. And that was a big step for us to bring into the vocabulary of the team open-ended questions and probing questions that forced the engagement to go further. That was a key point.
Philip, thanks ever so much for that. So that was then, and then you moved from RICS into your current role, and you concluded that our work together should continue, and we've then had the privilege of working together in a new team. I wonder if you could tell us a bit about this team, and then we'll get into some of the current challenges and opportunities, the progress that you've been making in this brand new and very different situation.
So we're now with a more commercial team, a more commercial organisation, a smaller organisation. Learning Tree is a UK operating unit of a US-based organisation, around $80 million turnover throughout the world. And the UK team is significant, around 50 or 60 employees. The sales team, when I joined, consisted of 19 individuals. It's less than that now, for various reasons. But it was typically what everyone says. If you want to, the worst house in the road is the builder's house, because he hasn't got time to work on it. And guess what? I inherited a team in a learning company that was selling learning products that weren't having any level of sales coaching or sales learning. And typically the recruitment had been from within. So people who perhaps had demonstrated certain qualities and aptitudes from within the business, perhaps in customer service, they were the people that had typically been put through into the sales roles with little or no advice and training. And when they did hire people in from external organizations, they tended to hire from competitors. And of course, they arrived with different expectations than perhaps Learning Tree could provide, and that wasn't too successful either. So we've had a lot of work over the last year to establish a learning program, typically through workshops. And frankly, we've made a few decisions that we might review in a different light. And I think we both agree with that, but that's the way it is. But we're certainly on a pathway now that is really encouraging, because we're really seeing some success. We're really seeing some penetration of new logo accounts. We're seeing some organic growth of existing accounts that we weren't seeing before. So it's been pretty successful.
Philip, thanks for that summary. So just before we continue, I'm aware that we're live streaming, and it may be that people will be joining this partway through. So just as a quick recap, I'm Peter Button, founder and director, Sales Reset Academy. This is number 2 of the Sales Reset Daily Show, and we're here speaking with Philip Caulfield, and Philip is the sales director at Learning Tree International. And we're just running through the way that we've worked together. Philip's outlined that we have worked together initially at the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, and we worked with a super team there. And Philip's just been outlining the work that we've been doing together at Learning Tree International. So, Philip, when we first got involved with the team, it's a really knowledgeable team. This is a very credible organisation working in the delivery of primarily technical training for 40 years now. So Learning Tree is a really established brand globally in the provision of technical training. So Microsoft certified technicians, and then a lot of Prince 2 and more recently Agile project training. So in this setting, you've got a sales team who are both handling existing accounts and they are making outbound prospecting contact with a whole range of significant organizations. And just like you, Philip, I find myself very encouraged with the way that the team is changing their approach to their role. They are actively engaging and increasingly empathizing with their clients and what they're trying to achieve. And the team is really trying to get to grips with how best to make the Learning Tree resources available to these terrific clients. I wonder if you could briefly, Philip, if you could outline a couple of the significant clients that you're working with and some of the perhaps some examples of recent conversations that I've been having where Learning Tree have been enabling these clients to make progress that would otherwise not have been available.
Yes, it certainly is a powerful client list. It was one of the key reasons that I took the role, because a year ago when I looked into the business, the client base was very strong. We were providing learning services to 22 of the top 100 companies in the UK. And something like, I think about 75, 80 of the top 500 companies in the UK. So that was good, but there was obviously opportunities for further engagement. This ranged from courses, public open courses, classroom courses at our education centre in Euston, in London, to bespoke off-site solutions. And that's typically where we really engage at the moment. We have some high-level names in financial services like Deloitte, Societe Generale, BNP Paribas, all work with us very closely on providing real in-depth courses to their teams. We also have contracts, worldwide contracts with companies like Syngenta, and government agencies is very high on our list. So there's lots of opportunity to take that further, and it's really about understanding the team and where they've come from as a business. You mentioned their expertise, and without doubt, the team has a phenomenal understanding and knowledge of the product and the product availability within Learning Tree. But as we know, in the sales world, that can be a challenge sometimes, because it can be too easy for the individual to want to talk about those products and not to ask the questions, not to ask those valuable questions that really uncover what the buyers are really looking for, because that's what we have to do as salespeople. We have to be that inquisitive. And so that's been a key area, is listening to our customers, but actually having engaging conversations. And that's been the biggest, most significant change in the past 12 months or so.
Philip, that's a really super summary of in a sense, the challenges that you've been facing as a team and the opportunity. Now, here we are we're recording this. We're sending out this live stream on the day that Boris Johnson has just announced the beginning of the release of lockdown in the UK. So literally 3 months to the day when everything got shut down. I wonder if you could briefly outline the impact of the lockdown on the team and your sense of what's likely to emerge as we come out of lockdown and how the team will be working in this very new and challenging environment.
Well, let's go back 3 months. Our financial year runs from October the 1st to the end of September. Therefore, the end of March is H1, is the end of the half year. We were happily bouncing along towards being on target and delivering numbers, which is really a very important step for Learning Tree. They haven't had the best of years recently. And within 2 or 3 weeks, I think we lost something like £250,000. £250,000 worth of cancellations. This is cancellations of individuals who were expecting to take classroom courses. So that's a big area of our business. It's say 45% of our business is classroom learning, instructor-led classroom learning. Now that wasn't going to happen with the lockdown. We get a significant amount of our attendees from outside of the UK. They're happy to fly to the UK for 5-day courses, etc. And they were cancelled. And that was a significant hit for us. The positive side for us is that we had in place already an opportunity to run virtual classroom training. So instead of them being in person at Euston, we were able to have via our platform Anywhere, very competent virtual classroom. That didn't happen immediately in terms of the take-up, but after 3 or 4 weeks, we suffered in March, we suffered in April, but we're seeing significant uptake now in virtual training, virtual learning, and we hope that that's the future, because that makes sense for everyone. It doesn't really make a lot of sense for people to travel, whether it's carbon footprint or simply cost. It doesn't make sense for them to travel and necessarily be in a classroom if we can prove to them that virtual instructor-led training is going to give them the same outcome. And that's what we...
Oops. I'm sorry, I've cut you off again. My apologies, Philip. I haven't got things set up for your microphone to follow the to follow you on the video when I come in. I'll have that fixed for tomorrow. So you've been describing such a challenging situation. So I recall exactly how it was. You and your colleagues were very encouraged with the way that sales performance had gone. You'd come into the first 3 months of this year and you were bang on target to hit some challenging sales goals in current financial year. Things were looking really well set, and credit to you and the team for the hard work to have achieved that. And then we heard this growing news. I recall that we had got a sales workshop booked in your Euston training centre shortly after all this was happening, and we kind of met up and we joshed around a bit, and then suddenly it was lockdown. And then you've had this period where you've led the team to be selling in different ways. Philip, from your perspective, as we just kind of head towards the close of this episode, and if it's okay with you, I'd love to continue this conversation subsequently. From your perspective, what's your sense of what the future now holds for a sales team like you, and how the world of B2B selling is likely different, and how people in roles like yours can support the team in this new world?
It's a good question, Peter, and I'm not sure that I have all the answers. But then again, the world has changed so much. The environment, the landscape has changed so much in the last 3 months, and I think it will continue to change. I personally, a good 50% of our sales activity, we tried to make sure was face to face. We would engage with attendees at classrooms. We'd make sure that they'd had a good experience, and we'd consciously be looking for further opportunities with them. And at the same time, if we have business with enterprise or corporates in London and the Southeast, then we made sure that we saw those technology professionals or learning professionals. We wanted to spend time with them, because that's how sales always happens, isn't it? It's always face to face. That everyone knows. If you have a face to face meeting with someone, it's much more efficient, much more useful, much more bountiful, I would say. So, what's going to happen now? My thought is that many suppliers will say, "Yeah, of course I'll meet you, but I'll meet you on video. Thanks very much. There's no need for you to come to my office. There's no need for us to meet," and that's going to be a challenge. So we're going to have to look at a whole new way of interacting on a virtual basis, on a video basis, that continues to drive engagement. It continues to drive rapport, because they're very important parts of selling. But we'll be doing it through video. But of course, as a result, we won't be traveling so much. That will be good. That will reduce the carbon footprint. That will reduce costs to businesses, as long as we get the same results. And that's the part that's unproven at the moment, is how will we is what sort of results we get. And of course, we haven't even touched on managing teams remotely, which is obviously a challenge for people like myself and many others as well.
Philip, that's just such that we can't let that go, because that's such a big topic. From your perspective, you're now you were used to running a team who themselves were coming into the office. They were spending perhaps 3 or 4 days a week working together as a team, with the opportunity to meet up, support each other, listening in to each other's calls, and just chatting and supporting each other. They are now home-based. You are leading from a home base. What are the implications of this for somebody in sales leadership?
Well, we've all learned how to manage video meetings as probably as best as we can. I would say, from a pros perspective, we've been in touch more. All of the team, we engage more. We get together in the morning. We have 15 minutes or so in the morning, and we talk. And it's not always about work. We just talk to each other. And we also finish the day with 15 minutes, half an hour. We talk to each other. We set little challenges. We measure ourselves, but we're talking, and that's good. And maybe that's more than we were doing when people were in the office. We kidded ourselves that we were talking to each other in the office, but perhaps we weren't really. So that's pros. We're engaged more. We know what's going on more. We're closer to it. The cons for me is that I can't. It's culture, I would say. I can't be sure that my team are in the right place mentally, at all, any day. I can't be sure of that. It's too easy to kid me. If someone's going through a bad time, if someone's not having a good time at work or in any other environment, and I have a responsibility for that. So that's perhaps an issue that I think we've all got to address, is how do we create the right culture virtually? I think that's going to be a big challenge. The rest of it, I think, will fall into place. Do you know why? Because we're very resilient. We're resilient as salespeople. One door closes, another door opens. We will find a way to make this work.
Philip, that's a super place to pause this conversation. As I say, I'll be really interested to continue this, and thanks very much for the insights. So I'm wrapping up here. This has been the second ever episode of the Sales Reset Daily Show, and I've been in conversation with Philip Caulfield from Learning Tree International. And Philip's been giving us an insight both in terms of how we began to work together at RICS, and then over the last year or so in his role as sales director at Learning Tree. I suppose, Philip, if we were wrapping up at this stage, what's your overall sense of the journey that we've come on together? If you were summarising where we've come from, where we find ourselves just now, and your expectations of what the short to medium term future holds about the changing role of the sales team, what's up ahead of us now?
Ooh, that's a quite a tough one to finish on, Peter. We've changed. We've developed the way that we engage with the sales team. Structurally, I sense that we've had challenges with the current team. That maybe was down to perhaps benchmarking exactly where they were and what they needed 12 months ago. There's some challenges there for us. But in terms of what's available, the opportunity is phenomenal. We're already seeing significant changes in attitude and mentality and application, because we're giving skills to people who are already very capable, but perhaps just couldn't get it in the right order, or perhaps couldn't quite articulate what they needed to do. And I really sense that we've given them that type of responsibility, the role playing, the concentration on prospecting and engaging. We've really given them a structure to work to and understand. And it's been tough at times, because it always is, but the rewards are high, and I see the rewards. I see where we're going.
Philip, that's smashing. You've spoken very candidly and very openly of some of the challenges that have been faced. But you've ended on a very positive and optimistic note, which is very much who you are in character. Here we are looking forward to where B2B selling goes from here. I have every confidence that the foundations that are being laid now, the work that you're doing with your team, I have every confidence that that's going to continue to produce the results that you've already been seeing. So Philip, thanks once again for joining us, really grateful. Looking forward to speaking again. And from our perspective, Sales Reset, we're back tomorrow. We're hoping to be joined by a team at the end of a day-long workshop that we've got with a team from Webfleet tomorrow, so we'll be hearing from the sales team leader at Webfleet and one of his team, who is beginning to use this kind of live stream technology in selling to add visuals into online demonstrations and so on. So looking forward to that tomorrow. In the meantime, thanks very much for being with us, and we'll see you on the next episode. Cheers now. Bye-bye.